start the slow process of hand stitching. Got my 2 needles here. I showed it the other day, but I'm not quite sure if it showed up right. So you got thread, and we're going to lock this needle in this thread. So the first thing you want to do is initially get it through the eye of the needle. Alright, we're there. We only want to pull maybe 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch out. Then we're going to take the needle and fold it in on itself like this to get the length. Now we're going to set it on something flat, and this is a braided revisable thread. So we flatten it out, then take the point of our needle and put it right in the center of that flat and pull up. Now what we got is the initial bit that we pulled through, but now we split the thread. So you pull it up till it makes contact right there. Then you pull the loose end all the way through like that. Then you just straighten your needle out and pull your thread straight off, and now that needle is locked, and it'll be locked till we unlock it. So we'd turn around. I got 8 foot of thread here. It gives me 4 foot in each arm to pull. Anything over that is just going to be too much of a bulk. If I run out in the middle of this job, I'll bring you back for how to continue stitching once you run out of thread. And then we do the same thing to this needle, and we are locked in place. It's punched. I got to go back and revisit the tip. I didn't punch it on the other side when I glued it on. So my bad. I can come back and get that in a minute. Not important right now. I got the main length. I can just keep on going until I come back around. Now I've got an even amount in each hand. I just pulled it through. Now I don't want to pull anything else until I get that first thread in. Right now everything is even. Give it a little wiggle. Get you off the table. You might have been bumping. I always try to do that first stitch careful. Right now it's just barely in. Then you bring your other needle through this side. So now they come through. And now we got our first stitch. So now we're going to lock it right there. And now we can just motor on the rest of the way. It's a whole lot of leather. I don't know if I can do that. No. You got clamps down there holding everything together, so it kind of binds up once in a while. If I ain't paying attention, it'll catch around the handle of the clamp. Alright, well, enough of that. I'm going to go stitch on around. See y'all when I get done. Later. Okay, I'm back. About out of thread. So we need to make a splice. Now, this side is going to be the working side, so I'm going to come through the front here. Come to the working side of the belt. Give it a little tug. Then what I'm going to do is take my 2 threads and cut them. I'll come back and come back 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes. I'm going to come back to this 4th hole. That'll give me 3 before I run into the next one. So I'm going to come through here Get a little whip, because that's pretty tight. And now what we're doing is splicing where we ran out. Let me get this thing halfway up, like we did before. Alright, so we're there, halfway up. Now what I'm doing is locking in the existing threads. Come through here, and that's about as tight as you're going to get. Alright, this is the Marshall PC Wabash back. Well, my shipment from Weaver Leather came in, so I have my thread to finish the belt. I bought some of these John James size 1.0 needles from them, and it's doing really great getting through the hole. But what I brought you back for is to show you, now this is a double piece of leather. It's a 1/4 inch thick, so it's quite a substantial piece to go through. It's bonded like a piece of plywood. It's stitched and contact cemented right here, all the way through. But if you got a tight spot to get a set of your stitching needles in, you can go through and bring your other needle through. Now we got 2 needles going through the same hole. That's a saddle stitch. But neat trick that the guy off of Weaver Leather, I wish I'd think of his name right now, but I haven't. Oh no, that ain't the right guy either. But anyways, on these tight stitch like this, you can grab your thread at the base and use the eye in the thread as kind of a little pry bar. That's what he showed. And you can push on the thread, but don't push it up underneath your fingernail. Push on the thread, and it grabs inside the eye right here on both sides. And you can actually use the thread as your leverage to push them needles through. And that's almost all the way through. And you can get a hold of them and bring them through pretty easy. I thought that was a neat trick. I seen it a while back. Daddy did it, and I'll do it again just to show you how easy it is to push both of the needles right on through. I figured I'd put that, and if y'all ain't seen him do it, but that's a neat trick. Alright, well, I'm bringing you back because I forgot to punch the holes in this end. So we got about 10 stitches we're going to do, but we're going to break out the awl instead of taking and going and punching holes in. We're going to break out the awl. Show you how to use that. Alright, well, I'll see y'all in a bit. Later. Okay. It's Marshall PC Wabash. I'm back. My brain is functioning. The fella that showed me the trick on YouTube with the where you hold your thread and push your needles through these holes like this if you need a little extra force, it's Chuck Dorsett, who does a YouTube channel for Weaver Leather. But I forgot to punch, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 holes through the tip of this belt. So instead of punching them with my 1/8 inch flat chisel set, I'm going to break out this awl, which is stitching awl. It's got a real sharp, kind of a diamond shaped blade, but it's sharp. And I'm going to poke it through my hole that I stitched on this side and come through this side over here. And it usually comes through pretty good, and right there you see it. You want to get it at a little bit of an angle. So that's one hole. Coming through, trying to hit my line, 2 holes. And we'll go ahead and get this 3rd hole punched in there. Right there. Now, we're going to see if we have success, which we should. You've seen the needle come through. I mean, all come through, and there's the needle. Now we're going to go ahead and stick this needle in this side. Use the thread and the needle trick. Push both of them through. And now that's a little bit tighter hole. Sometimes I'll pull out the Leatherman tool just to get that little bit of extra tug on there. And there we go. So it can be done with your stitching awl, which is a little bit, I'll try to make a little bit tighter hole when I use the awl. So sometimes I have a hard time getting both the needles through like that, but with the punch set or the chisel set, you can get it through pretty easy because the hole's a little bit bigger. It's 1/8. And when you do it one at a time like this, you pull through and kind of bring that tension up, and it opens up the inside hole for this needle, and this needle will slip through. Don't forget to switch hands, or it'll be pulling things apart. Alright, now we got 4 more holes to do. So break out the awl again. And like I said, try to hit our groove on both sides. Because everything's been on point pretty good. Definitely don't want to stab your finger with this thing, because it is sharp. And that's the last hole that we need with the awl. Then we're about done stitching this belt together. I've been all the way around it. Just a few, get these few stitches in here. We're going to do, I like to do a little bit of a back stitch. Back stitch to finish it off. That way I know the strings are locked in, or the thread is locked in. Oh yeah. And all stitching, if you can see back here, is just as neat as straight line chisel stitching. And sometimes you can be even more accurate when you're trying to go through 2 pieces of leather like we just done, because when you start pushing it through from the front side, it'll discolor the leather where the needle's getting ready to come up through on the back side. And if you find that you're off a little bit, you can actually correct it inside the ply, where the ply is the 2-piece ply. You can back your awl up and try to correct it so you're coming out on the little stitch groove that's on this side. So it's a little bit course correctable. And that, I pushed through the wrong hole. I pushed the same needle back through the hole because I was yapping. Get this saddle stitch done. And this will be the last hole, and then we're going to start coming back. I'll probably come back down to the tip, or at least 3 stitches. I always like to do 3 stitches. And finish up on this particular belt is going to be the work side, which is the side facing the camera, the solid color side. Now it's getting a little tight because I got 2 threads, four in there now, I believe, because I've been through the hole twice. So that's why I keep my little pair of Leatherman tool handy. Now we're going to start pulling on this pretty taut, because when we finally decide to say, alright, that's enough. Ooh. There we go. And pull down so you open that hole up a little bit. That way we can send that needle back through the other side. Now we back stitched twice from the last following stitch. So this one will be the last time I pull this particular needle through. That's his last trip. Then I'm going to go through and lock it from the other side. Alright, so that's the last trip on that one. We're going to pull it tight. Pull it down. Open up that hole. Now, I'm going to push this one through. I'm going to drop this needle because I don't want to pull it through no more. Then I'm going to pull this one. I'm going to pull that tight. And we're going to go ahead and go through this hole one last time, because I don't want none, if we happen to see any, I don't want none of the burnt thread on the dressier side of the belt. The working side, that's okay, but we're going to go for not having no thread at all showing once it's burnt down. Now, the other trick Chuck Dorsett showed is when you're using a utility knife, like this, all our cutting is primarily done on this tip. Very rarely we use the very closest part of this blade. So that's still sharp as the day I put it in. So instead of trying to cut it like this and messing up something, we're just going to lay the sharpest part of that knife down, and that's it, and pull the thread over it instead of sawing on it with the knife, and see how easy I cut, just like butter. Now we on the downhill side of this. Where is my lighter? Alright, I'm back. First one coming up. Alright. Let's see how many more of them I got. 2 right there. Right, much better, much better. There we go, perfect. Perfect! Alright. Give you a quick overview of what we use to make this double ply 1/4 inch thick belt. I use a saw pony, a stitching pony, which you've seen a lot of times in the video. We use some golden brown pro dye, a saddle tan, the stitching awl, some John James needles 1.0, some Rizzed Tiger thread, a simple basket weave stamp. We used the safety skiver to skive down the buckle end and a little bit on the hole end so it wasn't so thick. I used the 1/8 inch flat chisel set, a slicker to make the edges of the belt right here nice and smooth and rounder. I used my Leatherman tool to help pull the needle through once in a while. Strap cutter, just your basic run-of-the-mill strap cutter, nothing fancy about it. This came in the hand stitching kit that I bought years ago. It's a little roller, and when you put your contact cement on both sides of the leather and get everything, when you got it straight, you just roll back and forth to ensure a good seal, good contact on all the leather.